Friendship supreme. Friendship supreme. Finding the geek within.
Hey everybody, I'm Michael.
This is Cleve.
And welcome back to another exciting episode of Friendship
Supreme.
See, it works so much better that way. We're the podcast that dares to ask, if you were to have created Batman, wouldn't you have wanted credit for it?
You're going to whine about it.
So today we are here to talk to you about a documentary / book / cultural event that happened within the comic book world.
Yeah, for lack of a better word, a pandemic that swept the nation.
So there is all is kind of, well, I say it's all kind of sparked, but this particular documentary, which is on Hulu currently, Cleve, what is it called?
It is Batman and Bill.
That was super hard for me to remember. I couldn't remember if it was Bill and Batman or Batman and Bill, if that matters. But anyways, Batman and Bill.
If you're searching it, yeah, like Death by Daylight and Escape by Daylight.
I tried to get Cleve to download Escape by Daylight, and it's not a game. It's Death by Daylight or Dead by Daylight. So the documentary Batman and Bill is all inspired by a man named Marc Tyler Nobleman, who wrote a book called Bill the Wonder Boy.
What's so magical how you put that there?
I found out last time, in fact, the whole Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles video, I was pointing down in the wrong areas. Because apparently what I was saying was not what you guys were saying. And so it really messed with me. But Bill,
there's a learning process with all this
curve here, yep.
Quarantine recording.
Bill the Wonder Boy, the story, the secret co-creator of Batman. If you guys are interested in this book right here, listen until the end of the episode, and we will tell you how you might be able to win a copy of it.
I'm going to enter twice.
But anyways, so I was not 100% familiar with this situation because I have openly admitted there's a large gap in my life in which I did not pay attention to comic books. Unfortunately, I was dealing with other weird shit, so wasn't into comic books at the time.
Was it on top of the mind?
It wasn't right. It was number one. So I was unfamiliar with this, and so it was kind of interesting when Cleve said, hey, you should watch this documentary, because much like a lot of people that were interviewed in some of the stock footage he showed of like him at Comic-Con, I would have immediately answered Bob Kane. I don't know that I would have known to say Bill Finger.
Because it's been drilled into your head that way.
It has, right. And
everything you see says created by Bob Kane. Right.
Very intelligently. Very sneaky, smart, oil salesman type
supposedly
situation. Right. So the premise, a real quick rundown of this event is that Bob Kane found out how much the guys were making writing the Superman comic books.
$800 a week.
$800 a week at the time, which was quite fancy. That's good money. Found out that that's how much they were making, said, hey, how do I get in this? They're like, well, can you get as a character by Monday? And he said, of course I can. And went home and started drawing a character. But that character did not turn out the way that you know Batman.
No.
He actually, interestingly, looked like this.
I was going to say, can you zoom in on one of the panels for him? Yeah, this red suit with like these hard bat wings.
The wings just stayed open.
How does he get through doors?
Sideways. It's like an actual real life cosplayer at a
Or like,
convention.
I hope you're not like in a burning building because I don't know how I'm supposed to get to you. And then if I get in, my wing's gonna catch fire. No windows.
Yeah, this. I found this panel. I thought it was funny. What if Bob Kane had created Batman without Bill Finger? So Bob Kane, knowing that he needed outside help,
Created straight trash.
had a friend named Bill Finger who had worked with him on other comic books or comics, and had him come over and give him some pointers. And so Batman went from this monstrosity to the Batman you guys know.
Cowl, cape, dark colors, bat symbol. I mean, yeah, the origin story. I didn't realize that. Like, it was, man, all of it.
I think that was a big point that they kept trying to make. By the way, I'm just zooming in on the thing that we all saw as children every day. Anytime you ever read a
Comic,
that's what you
graphic novel,
somewhere.
movie. Yeah, just, I mean, all that Bob Kane came with was Batman.
Yes. And so, yes, good point, Cleve. So Bill Finger had his hand in creating the Joker,
Robin,
Penguin,
Catwoman.
Riddler, Catwoman. I don't believe Poison Ivy was involved in that.
No,
I didn't
but
see her.
it was like the starting roster
But
for
right,
Batman.
came up with the idea of Gotham City.
Gordon.
He literally sat on a bus and would just ride the bus around and write down different things he saw and be like, oh, this would be interesting in Gotham. Created the entire universe as far as Batman was concerned. And Bob Kane refused to acknowledge it.
Well, he went back and sold the idea for Batman.
Right.
And then said, Bill, they love it. I'll give you a cut. Which I can't imagine was a lot because he seems like
it was on a handshake deal too.
Never met Bob Kane, but it seemed like a really, I'm going to take, if I'm getting $800 a week, you'll probably get 100 and I'll go ahead and take 7. So then basically Bill Finger eventually wants to get some kind of credit for this. And Bob Kane had a chance to either say, yes, this is true. This man helped me build Batman, or lie about it. And he decided to go on a tour of absolutely denying that any of this ever took place.
Yeah, for 35 years, Bill Finger wrote, didn't say anything. And then he came out in the 60s saying, hey, yeah, I was a part of that. And then, like Cleve said, Bob Kane then set a campaign out to essentially debunk everything that Bill Finger had stated.
Yeah, super crummy. Like, I mean, what sucks is one of the guys, the creator of Spawn, it was actually on there. Name eludes me.
Todd McFarlane.
Was it?
I'm pretty sure it's Todd McFarlane.
Look at you off the hip. Basically was like, the way that we get into this business is because we love it, and then we just so happen to have other people who love it. Bob Kane got in it to make money.
Right.
Yeah, get rich quick.
Todd McFarlane.
So
yeah, and that's just it. Like, they all had a love for it as opposed to Bob Kane. Bob Kane very obviously didn't love it. He loved the money coming out of it.
Yeah, so the documentary is just about trying to do everything possible to get Bill Finger credit, which, spoiler, at the end, they do. Because if you Google it, if you Google now, the creator of Batman, it comes up with both names. I don't know if you've done that yet. Yeah, but, I mean, is there any more of the story that you think we should bring up?
No, I mean, the documentary is told from the point of view of Marc Marc Tyler
Mark
Nobleman.
Noble. Yeah.
And that he has gone through a whole experience trying to get him credit. What I found, one of the more interesting things was that there were multiple accounts of people trying to get Bill credit, and nobody could do it.
Because it's one or two people taking on DC Comics or Warner Brothers towards the end of it, because they're running everything. But it is impressive that Kevin Smith is in the documentary, and he basically says, Mark, you are Bill Finger's Batman. Like, you are on a crusade for justice. And as far as I know, besides writing the book that we're talking about giving out, I don't think he got anything out of it.
No.
You know what I mean? He didn't get a cut. They weren't like, oh, thank you so much. Here's
even the lawyer. Right. I'm sure he made money off of this documentary. I think that I'm sure he's getting money from that and money from the actual book itself. But that being said, I think that so he ends up finding an error unbeknownst to the world. He had a granddaughter from his bisexual son, who he thought was only gay. Had a granddaughter, and this granddaughter exists, and he found her, and that is the only stake for which they can claim any kind of grievance for the rights to be credited.
Yeah, so it must be an heir to that family member.
Her stepsister is the attorney that ended up going up against Warner Brother with the help of somebody else.
Which, how great does that work out for you? Because what if it wasn't? What if she wasn't related to a lawyer?
Right. Oh, absolutely. I mean, can you imagine the pissing in your boots? Like, shit, I don't know. I don't know. I'm this small time attorney in Florida. And I'm like, I'm going to go up against Warner Brother today. But so what I was going to say is, from her point or perspective, she very specifically talked about Mark and was talking about how he just genuinely believed in it and wanted to do what he felt was right.
Yeah.
Right or
wrong.
Right. And I think that not a lot, but a couple of people even had mentioned or commented on it in this particular documentary, that there are not a lot of people like that anymore. That's why superheroes are so appealing, is because they're just inherently good people that do things because it's what's right and not what's beneficial to them. And that seems kind of like the route that guy took. But again, he did make money on a book, and I bet on this documentary.
I love how when her stepsister or half-sister, they have different dads, her half-sister was like, I don't know if they could tell, but I was very nervous. I was so scared going into the room and the board meeting. She was like, I didn't even expect to be in that meeting. But
yeah, there was her and a copyright attorney that she was friends with. Those two in the boardroom of Warner Brothers, talking to the legal team that they have, basically saying, all we want is the name underneath it. And it was interesting. So she ended up getting dividends of some sort. Like, they were giving her checks, which at one point somebody called hush money, but I mean, she never had to hush, never had to sign anything on, at least the first parts, up until they sent her hey, we want to buy you out.
Well, I don't know if you remember, but they mentioned, like, that's what they do. Because when her father, Fred Finger, went in there, they brought him in, treated him like he was family, told him to get out. So that seems to be, with no experience of my own, how a big company would kind of handle it, you know?
I imagine that Warner Brothers looks at everybody like a country bumpkin, and you're just like, hey, come in, look at this nice TV, and look at this, look at this fancy bubbly one, or have some. And then, like, you come out like, oh, man, those guys are real stand-up guys. They'd never screw me over. And then you just walk out and never fucking think about it again.
It's so crazy. I'm just glad that she didn't, like, randomly sign it without looking at something, you know what I mean?
I was super glad, because I thought I could feel it kind of going that way, because she didn't seem like she had a lot of money at first. And, like, I could, especially being a brand new single mother and all that, like, I can imagine seeing enough zeros to be like, screw it. Yep, there you go.
Right. Well, I felt bad for her when she was talking about they were talking about their family, and she mentioned how her grandpa had created Batman or helped create Batman, and everybody just looked at her like she was crazy, so she just stopped talking about it.
Yeah, I made Katie watch it while I was watching it, and that was like I turned to her. There's a couple times where I would talk to her about it. I generally don't talk a lot about or during movies, but this one I did. Anyway, turned to her and I was like, "Can you imagine living a life where you know that your grandpa was something huge, but nobody will ever believe you, nobody will ever know, and nobody will ever care?"
Yeah, you know it to be true, but nobody else will even. And you know what? How many times does that happen? But also, how many times did you know a kid in elementary school whose uncle worked for Nintendo or something? You know what I mean? Like,
You tell me that wasn't real?
no, man, that was real.
Okay, good. I put a lot of money in on that.
So how did you feel? Because we know at the end, we finally get the fist bump, and
it was a good, and that was a good way to cinematography tell the story of he at the end scene is him sitting in the movie theater watching Batman v Superman, and you see Bill Finger's name come up, and he's crying. Well, he has tears in his eyes, and he's you see the excitement.
I almost had tears in my eyes.
Yeah, no,
because this man,
it was an emotional moment.
Can you imagine? Because I don't know if you correlated or paid attention to this part, but there is video that he has of him and his daughter, and she's 3, 4, and she's talking about Bill Finger because he's been doing this for so long.
Yeah.
And when they finally got
how much older she looked,
his name, she's like 11. It
Yeah.
looked like, right?
It was great. Yeah, I said that to Katie about it. It was weird, like seeing, what does your dad do for a living? And she's like, Bill Finger. And he's like, no, but like, what do I do? It's like, Bill Finger. And like, that's all that exists in this girl's life.
Yep.
And then, yeah, she was like 12 or 13 years old. And
she's
you gotta think he had to have started in late 2000s. And so the 2014's when, or 16, was it 14 or 14, when Superman v Batman came out?
2016.
Okay. So I mean, yeah, like 10 years from when he started it, probably, I would say.
Yeah, but just it's still knowing what we're saying about it and knowing that like it works out, it's to me worth watching. Like just the story and the way it's told.
I did not pan out because I watch it again, and as soon as like I started listening to it and watching the premise of it, like I didn't go and Google it and say, okay, what was the end result? I don't know. I just sat there and I watched it, and I was like, man, I don't know how I'll feel at the end of this if he's like, couldn't do it. Sorry, because again, 3 different people tried to do it.
Another part that hit me right here is because. So Bill Finger passed away in 1974. And everything that they knew, he passed away where they bury people that have no loved ones, nobody to take care of everything. Just, I forgot what the
that broke my heart. It was a pauper
yes.
Grave. And yeah, no, that broke my heart. Like I was watching this, and there were several times where I genuinely felt like this could be the moment a movie makes me cry. This might not go well.
They were like he died alone with nobody, but that even that part upset me. But the part where they were saying apparently his son had came after and got his ashes and took it to the beach and drew out the Batman symbol and poured his ashes in it. I was like,
are you kidding me? Man. Like, no.
I was like, that made me so much happier.
Agreed. Well, no, almost no times was I almost in tears because I was sad. I was almost in tears every time because I was like, here's this overcoming moment that was like really meaningful.
Yeah, the moment, like, because can you imagine that you for no benefit of your own, just to make things right, you fought to have this man get credit for something that he deserved credit for, and then to finally go to a movie and see it.
Right.
Unfortunately, it was added to Batman v Superman.
Poor Bill Finger.
And I feel like they knew.
They knew what they were doing. They're like,
Warner Brothers
let's
knew.
just throw it on that. Batfleck, no worries. Although I
Or
like Batfleck.
is that why it tanked?
Curse of Bill Finger.
Why have we not made a meme that's like Superman's like, I gotta save Bill, and Batman's like, why did you say that name? I'm gonna make that right now.
Oh man, that'd be the best.
Keep talking.
So there are moments in this where, you know, feels defeated. There's a point in time where he's trying to find an heir. He finds the divorced wife of his who had a second child, and both of them were fighting for a while with DC to try to get the credit, and nothing happened. Then Fred, his son, fought for it. Nothing happened. At one point in time, Athena, his granddaughter, tried to fight for it. Nothing happened. And so everyone was just told, let it go. Don't worry about it anymore. And here comes along Mark. And at one point, the granddaughter was like, I don't want to deal with this. This is bringing up way too much from my past that I don't want.
It's a burden. And to be fair, like, although it was the right thing for her to do, and I'm glad that she did it, obviously.
Right.
But can you imagine first of all, like we were talking about before, people are just making fun of you every time you talk about it.
Yep.
But then to be like, this was 2 generations ago. This was 2 lifetimes ago. This isn't on me to deal with.
Yeah, she never got to meet her grandpa. I think she said he died 2
years
before.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you know, you think about it and you look at it and it's like, what did she benefit from it? She didn't know the man. None of it was. But I thought what was really cool, and I think this is I genuinely believe this is what pushed her into it, and what's part of the story that I think is cool. One of the coolest moments is that when she started bringing it up with Mark, there was a gentleman, and I think he was just a comic book store owner. It seemed like a big deal owner of some big chain or whatever.
Mm.
But he brought her to comic book conventions with him and was like, oh, like, this is who this is. This is a big deal. And so, like, that whole community really embraced her son, and were, like, super accepting. They loved meeting her. At some point, there was, you know, times where she met Adam West and got to talk to him. And I think I saw Kevin Conroy. I'm not 100%, but, like, there was a couple different conventions she went to, and these people all really embraced her and were like, we want what's right for Bill. And all of these people just kind of got behind the cause. And I think that while, yes, it's a burden on her, I think that having that many people kind of showing their support would be enough to push you in that right direction.
Yeah. I also thought it was really cool when Marc Nobleman went to her house and she was like, you know, I never met him. And he got to tell her about her grandfather. You know what I mean? Like, that was a really cool moment because, I mean, how many people get to go through that? And then the fact that she had a weird thing with her father and how he passed away in New York. And I really wondered about that. I really wondered if that was because that's where his father passed away.
The one of the ladies, I think it was his cousin, said that the big reason why he went back to New York was because he had built a huge community there of like-minded and people in the similar situation, because it was during the HIV epidemic. Yeah, and then she got to see a video of her dad, who she very rarely got to see, which was kind of cool for her.
An interview she'd never seen before, yeah.
Right.
Footage that Mark had found on this march for justice.
It's crazy the amount of research this man did. It was funny when at one point in time he was like, this is 2006, 2007 when he was doing this research. He's like, I didn't even think about the fact that, you know, MySpace and Facebook existed until some random guy was like, oh yeah, you should be able to find Athena on Facebook or on MySpace.
Yeah.
And so, oh yeah, I guess we're in a day and age where that is possible. Yeah,
because he said that he went through, well, and you think about it too, everybody that he was researching, like, he said he went through a phone book from 1930 to 1941 looking for names. Like, just so crazy.
Yeah, he did a lot of research, and I mean, he did a lot of canvassing where he was putting out flyers saying, "Hey, contact me if you know so and so or know this one. Call me." One of the funny things was when he was at the San Diego Comic-Con, he was handing out shirts. He's like, "Oh, hey guys, I got like 3 or 4 more Batman shirts left." And they're, "Oh yeah, I want one." And he gives them. He starts walking away. He's like, "Still have no idea what the hell I just gave them," and it just said like, "Put your finger on it." Basically saying, put Bill Finger's name on the Batman. But anyways, that was just an interesting part. I mean, the mass population did not understand or really know that this was the case. And it'd be super easy for me to act like I knew and Cleve knew, but it didn't. I don't know how soon or how much of what happened Cleve knew. I knew none of it until watching this.
I think a year ago, maybe.
Yeah,
I had heard it, but yeah, no, because it's not common knowledge, and unless you're a diehard fan, like these older guys that they were interviewing were, or like the guy who went to the first Comic-Con, or
who got to
if
meet him randomly.
Yeah, how cool is that? Yeah, or if you like the typical, and that was the point, is he was talking to people who were dressed like Batman, but didn't know, and it's because I know what you've shown me, which is Bob Kane.
And I thought it was kind of interesting. I mean, and I go back and forth on Kevin Smith, so I know Cleve's a fan of him. I hit and miss with me. I know Yoga Hosers kind of ruined it for Cleve, but other than that, I think he's still a pretty big fan. But that's why I kind of was like, it'd be easy for me to be like, "Oh, I knew this. How did you guys not know this?" Because I feel like a lot of them did. There were the old school guys that I'm willing to believe and accept, like, "Hey, you were there." The one guy, I can't remember his name right now, was side by side writing with Bill Finger.
Charles Sinclair?
Thank you. Was sitting there, I was writing with him and doing stuff with him. I lived down the block, or not down the block, I'm sorry, down one level from him, to the point where he was the one that found him dead.
Yeah, that's why he stood out to me.
Right.
His whole story in telling that. And oh man, when Mark was like, what happened to him, like after he died, and he was like, I don't want to get into that, please.
Right.
I was like, oh my god, this old man, it's his friend, like.
On the medical examiner page, they wrote like no history, no family, and like it was just another kind of check mark in the this person is
John Doe.
Imagine what he could. Yeah, imagine what they could have been, or the life they could have had, at least the easy, not easy, but the more luxurious life that they could have had that been the case. Because he didn't have anything, went through 2 divorces, a lot of fighting, miserable life, scrounged by being a artist for comic books, and a lot of times it wasn't actual comics anymore because DC didn't want anything to do with him.
Yeah.
After some fights and stuff. But so here's this guy who's alone by himself, living in a 1-bedroom apartment, nothing, and essentially died penniless, while Bob Kane's, living the high life,
diving into gold like Scrooge McDuck,
painting oil paintings of Batman. Fucking douche.
And you know what was the shittiest part to me? Because now we can start getting into how we felt about it. One of the shittiest parts to me was when they did that book for Bob Kane, and he was like, there was a man who did 50 to 75% of the work, like, blah blah blah, my dearest friend, he's passed on. And then he's like, here's these drawings I made of Batman when I was like 14, and at 14 I was making doodles and dating them. You think a 14-year-old is like, let me make sure to put the date on here.
Even the autobiography writer, the person who was writing it for him, was like, it seems real suspicious, and this is pretty much the drawing that someone would come out with if they very much wanted to direct a narrative that's what happened. Because it just, none of it made sense. And so Bob Kane, to his grave was like, or not to his grave, technically towards the very end, but leading up, just refused. He didn't exist. Bill was not, or not that Bill didn't exist, but Bill had nothing to do with it, and
Sole creator. I did everything.
Was just a pompous asshole. Every time he spoke, because I don't even think I've ever heard Bob Kane speak before. I just acknowledged that his name is on every Batman, anything that's ever existed, and just accepted it. But like watching him talk to Stan Lee at conventions, anywhere he was, I just hated the moment he walked on the screen.
You know, and it's funny to me because he spoke. Like, okay, so there's controversy behind Stan Lee also. But when Stan Lee spoke about comics, you could feel when he spoke about comics. I did not see one snip of when Bob Kane talked about comics where he had that same love.
I won't go down the Stan Lee road that much. I think he was really good. He was better at marketing himself as the father of comics or the father of Marvel in general, rather than Bob Kane, who was just really good at making himself money.
Yes.
I think that Stan Lee wanted to build himself a legacy, which he would be remembered on forever.
And Stan told a story. Like him and Steve Ditko and the co-creator of Spider-Man and that whole thing. I struggle with that one to this day because I still feel both sides. Like, I had the idea of Spider-Man. That's my baby. I created him. But Steve Ditko came in and did how he looked, how he crawled on walls, like the stance where he had his knees out and his hands like to his heels. So he's like, I co-created him. And even Stanley's like, you know what? You feel like that? You did just as much as I did. That's fine. You co-created him. But it was almost like Steve...
I didn't think that Stanley ever acknowledged it.
Oh,
Even
no.
in the end, I feel like he's just not willing to contest it, but he wasn't going to acknowledge it.
There's a clip where he said, if Steve... And this is what Ditko didn't like, is he would say, if Steve Ditko feels like he's the co-creator of Spider-Man, then I will agree because he deserves it. But to Ditko...
Right, the wording is kind of...
To Ditko was almost like you're doing it just because...
Right. You're trying to be the bigger guy.
But at the same time, I feel like I made it. So you want me to go against how I feel? I'm acknowledging how you feel. You know what I mean? Like, it's such a weird way to explain it. But
and I know some people that would disagree with you. So.
Of course you do. But Bob just didn't care.
He felt grimy. Every time he saw him, he just felt slimy. And like when he got out and had that velour bat cape kind of thing that he had at the premiere of Michael Keaton or Tim Burton's Batman.
You can call it Michael Keaton's Batman.
But no, Bob Kane just was not a fan. At the very end, he was like, I would go back, if I could go back 15 years and give him credit, I would, but was alive for like 3 or 4 more years after that, so didn't.
And then was like, also, here's my drawings.
Right, but also I would thought of this when I was a 14-year-old boy.
This guy did all of it, but here's me doing it.
Yeah.
I dated it. One more thing before I moved on about the Steve Lee.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Thing. So they eventually split because like super creative differences. Because the way it worked is Steve would draw it, Stan would put the words. So they kind of told a story together.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the biggest thing that I remember is Green Goblin. Ditko wanted Green Goblin to be a random guy, someone he didn't know, because that's not how things work, that it's your best friend's dad that's the Green Goblin. But Lee wanted it. to be Harry Osborn's dad, which worked out and was a better story and really connected everyone and made it really complicated, which is kind of what makes it such a good story. And it was stuff like that that they just couldn't get on the same page with. So they said one day Steve Ditko came in, turned in his Spider-Man issue, and said, "I'm done." Just got up and walked out. Yeah, but Bob Kane's a piece of trash.
Bob Kane can suck a dick.
Just to get back on track.
Someone, I don't remember which guy it was. I tried to look it up a couple times. One of the people, it might have been Todd McFarlane, honestly. He was one of the most passionate people about this whole fuck Bob Kane thing. But one of them was like, look, you keep talking about how he's one of your best friends and you met him every day at the park to talk about ideas.
Oh, yeah, I know who you're talking about.
And he's like, and while you're sitting here living the high life, this man died penniless. Nobody knew who he was. Nobody ever heard of him. And he died an old man by himself in an apartment, laying on a couch. It's like, you're a piece of garbage. I'll never forgive you. And I'm like, yep, that's walking away from that. That's how it felt.
It wasn't Todd, but yes, I very much. It was a bigger guy, but I remember exactly who you're talking about. Yeah, man, it's just so crazy to me. You know that this happened with Batman because it's a documentary you're watching. Steve and Stan got into it. Then you find out that the same guy wrote a story about the two creators of Superman and how they went through it. And you almost have to wonder how many of these characters that we love have these super dark backgrounds to them where
I think that's kind of the point one of them made, was something along that lines of like, this is just how it was when the comic in the golden age. And so all these people are getting screwed over. I mean, the guys that did
Ghost Riders, yeah.
The guys that did Batman, or not Batman, Superman, Schuster, and I don't remember the other name right now.
Yeah.
But those two sold their comic book for $150 because they were just excited to get published. And they've continued to sue from here on out, trying to get their rights to this character they created.
And I don't think they ever did.
No, the most they got was $90,000, and it was to drop the case, and then they were fired immediately after.
Yep. Yeah, man, but what do you say? It's and especially in a world now where I feel bad posting a picture on Instagram without tagging the artist that I'm using.
Right.
To completely be like, screw that guy, he doesn't matter.
And I think that's why that campaign got as much ground as it did and took off, was because our generation is very much, you give the credit to the people that deserve it. You know, if you tag everybody that's involved in something, you make that happen. Yeah, it was the whole thing's crazy, man.
But what a great story, though.
Like, yeah, it was a fantastic documentary. Katie is not a huge comic book fan, never has been, doesn't really care about any of it. But watched it, and I know she first picked up her Switch because she was going to play Animal Crossing while I watched that, and I would tell you that she probably paid attention to 95% of it, which is a compliment because she does not pull herself away from her Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, Jennifer sat down and watched it with me also, and was just like, I can't believe what's happening. And I'm like, yeah, it sucks.
That's the biz, baby. Shit. I mean, yeah, I can't imagine something like this happening now. But I think that so many artists and so many writers and stuff take very big precautions to not allow stuff like this to happen.
Well, I'm trying to look. Because Marvel bought Venom off of this guy, and he sold it for nothing. Let's see.
I know I think it was a lady that created the logo for Nike, got like $50 for it.
Yeah, you hear about that left and right too.
There's a lot of people just want to get their name out there. They sell it for cheap, and then it becomes something so much bigger. $220.
Yeah. How's that
Andy
feel?
Schuler was a fan of Spider-Man and decided to create the character. He created this character and sold it for $220. And he took a picture and showed the old that one, other one. Sorry. Oh, hey, go away, ad. Yep, we got $220 and a voucher or an agreement that he had to sign for it, which is essentially saying, I no longer have the rights to anything I've done for you.
And I guess, to be fair, he got it from the Secret Wars where Spider-Man donned the suit. But, I mean, how much is Venom used now?
Yeah. I mean, Sam De La Rosa loves the shit out of him.
He's in the 90s animated series.
Yeah.
And he's like a big part of it.
Topher Grace played him, man. That's a huge deal.
Yeah, that also happened.
But no, yeah, it's crazy. Artists are getting screwed over all the time. I think that in our generation, or at least in this new decade, that's not as common. Or if it is, we're not hearing about it. So we'll hear about it in 30 years when someone else comes out with another documentary about it.
When Mark Nobleman's daughter passionately searches, yeah.
The Noblemans are just going to have to go. What a great name, by the way, for someone that. But
he should have his own comic series.
Going to keep going forward with the justice for comic book writers.
Why has nobody made a comic about this? And the hero just be called Nobleman.
Can we get?
No.
Okay. It was worth a shot.
We'll have to hire someone on Fiverr.
But I'm gonna do it. Hold on, you help me write a story. No, we do this. This is a real thing.
What's up? The story's already written
for it. Right, but we have to make it not sound like it's just.
Can it just be a short story like someone lost their dog and he helped them find it, and it's like Nobleman, and he like takes off.
Dude, one of the moments that almost got me was the fact that her dog was named Bruce Wayne. Can you imagine living a life where you're like, nobody will ever believe me, but here's my one like, haha, as you named your dog Bruce Wayne?
Yep.
That was amazing.
What's funny is, to me, I think we would have shunned Batman at my house.
Shit. Batman is dead to everybody. We're a Superman family. Damn it.
Because it could have easily been like that. Talking about her grandfather could have ruined her life.
Yeah. To
the point where she's like, I don't even want to deal with any of this anymore.
I want to make this Fiverr thing. It's going to happen.
But then we co-created.
That's fine. With that person? No. Bullshit. We pay them for their rights. Give them their $5 check in an envelope.
You're a Bill Finger son of a bitch.
Bob Kane, you mean? Bill Finger was a saint.
Yes, I love Bill. You're a Bob.
Yeah, I am a Bob. I'm the Bob. But no, so it was a fantastic documentary. Whether you like comic books or not, it's worth watching. If you like comic books and you don't know this story, it's even more worth reading or watching. And if you guys are fans of reading books, which you should be because reading is educational, the book is even better. It's pretty amazing. You get a lot of the details out of it, a lot of the history, and some of the research that he actually did that you don't necessarily get to see on the 1.5 hour documentary. If you guys want an opportunity to win this book, we are giving it away. There are 3 chances you have to win Bill the Wonder Boy, the secret co-creator of Batman. The 3 different ways, if you comment down below on our YouTube video, just comment down below your favorite Batman character in the DC universe. It could be anybody. If you guys see our post on Instagram that references this episode, comment down below that and make sure to like it and comment your favorite Batman character on there. Or thirdly, if you find our Facebook post that references this episode, please comment down below your favorite Batman character. If you could also, it's not required because we're not like that, but if you guys could share it, please do so. It helps us get out there. It helps everybody find out about us and find out about cool stuff like Bill the Wonder Boy.
And just because Bill's story needs to be told to everyone, this history needs to be corrected.
Agreed. If you guys could share any of our posts, please do so. The more people that enter, the more fun it can be. But for every one of those things that I just mentioned, if you do each one of those, you would get a total of 3 submissions into this drawing. By the end of May, we will let you guys know who the winner is for this book, and we will reach out to you guys to try to get it to you. If you want, Cleve and I will doodle on it. If you don't want that, we understand. It's no big deal. I'll draw my best Batman. Cleve will draw his best Batman. It'll basically be worth $1 million in the future.
Mine will just be
the
outline of my hand like a turkey. But I'll do it upside down. It's almost a Batman.
That could be a Batman, sure.
If I do my hand upside down and then just make the cowl at the top, it's Batman.
It's kind of what Bob Kane's Batman symbol on his chest looked like. Just like, he was like, slap. That's a bat.
That's what Bob Kane's whole Batman looked like. You know, he looked a lot to me like Phantom. Like, exactly.
But that seemed like that was the kind of style of superhero back then, too.
No,
like
Superman didn't look anything like that.
Like a flamboyant, though, like the bright colors and the... yeah, Superman looked like that. It was just blue instead of red.
He had cool boots and
shut up. Anyway, but yes, definitely make sure you guys enter into that. Let us know what you guys thought about this episode. If you guys know any cool, fun, interesting facts about Bill that we didn't talk about, please let us know. Comment down below. Also, make sure to check out the documentary. It's on Hulu right now. Batman with Bill. Batman and Bill.
Batman and Bill.
Batman with Bill. Batman and Bill.
Just hanging out. Batman with Bill.
Batman with Bill. And if they want to get a hold of us, Cleve, how can they do that?
We have a Facebook, which you can enter the contest in. It is Friendship Supreme. We have an Instagram, which you can enter the contest in. It is Friendship Supreme. We have a Twitter. It is Friendship Supreme, except no I's in the word Twitter because all I's. Oh, we'll take that Twitter. Just kidding. Please sponsor us. I need that check. Both the blue check and a real check.
We want the blue check so bad.
All eyes are on our YouTube channel. It's youtube.com, and then just search Friendship Supreme. We also have a Patreon that we mentioned, the patreon.com/Friendship Supreme. Every buck helps. We appreciate everyone. We appreciate everything. Anyone who listens, tell a friend. They will listen, and then they'll tell a friend, and then we will slowly take over the world.
Yep. For Patreon, as low as $5, you guys can start seeing all kinds of cool content that we do for just Patreon subscribers. We've actually started recording just $5. That's it.
What?
That's you can buy. You know what you can buy? You can buy a child food for an entire month with that, or you can give it to us. Whatever. Yeah.
You can save a dying dog, or give it to your friends.
Right. Give it to us.
You know what? How about this?
Here, you know what? That's how you know we're real friends, guys. I could have gone with the cheesy bit about like, oh, you know, for that price you could get a cup of coffee. For the price of a cup of coffee, 1 cup, you could help us. It didn't. I was real with you. You could feed an entire village for $5.
Such a terrible impression.
Give it to us.
Such a terrible impression.
It was horrible. But we actually have started reading comic books and doing reviews of just comic book issues as well on our Patreon. So if that kind of stuff is exciting to you, check it out. In addition, we have all kinds of crazy stuff. There's a point in time where Stephanie makes us relive horrible moments in our childhood because she hates us. We also talk about the best Joker. Spoiler alert, it's Joaquin Phoenix.
Mine's Jared Leto.
That was mine too. But definitely, if you can, stop by our Patreon and sign up. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. I have been Michael.
This is Cleve. Or I'm Batman.
And we are the podcast that dares to ask.
Fuck Bob Kane.